In this video, I'm going to be talking about bowings for dance scenario. Okay, how do we get our students really comfortable with the bowings so that everything else is going to be easier? So obviously, the first thing that you're going to want to do is just make sure that they understand the basic note values, the eighth notes, the quarter notes, the half notes, the whole notes. Of course, they understand the rhythm, but do they understand where to play them in the bow, and do they all play it the same way? Okay, are they playing eighth notes in the middle? Are they playing quarter notes at the balance point? Are they playing half notes in the lower half going to the upper half? Do they have the technique to play the whole notes from frog to tip? And if they don't, then can you teach them to hold their bows right and to have flexibility in the wrists so that they can do that while keeping a straight bow? Once you feel like they understand where to be in the bow for their basic rhythmic values, then you probably want to work with them a little bit on string crossings, because there's quite a few string crossings here and there's some rapid string crossings. So definitely check out Season 1, Episode 9. I did a video on string crossings, and I talk about the difference between leading with the elbow to cross strings and leading with the wrist. You can lead with the elbow exclusively. There's not anything that you couldn't lead with the elbow and still do. But if you start teaching them how to lead with the wrist when they're crossing from string back to the original string, like from the A string, E string, A string, or D string, A string, D string, and there's some spots where it goes from the D string, G string, D string. When you're crossing strings, if they're able to cross strings by leading with the wrist, you're preparing them for more challenging pieces. You're preparing for stuff like Vivaldi and Telemann. Once they're good with the basic rhythms and the string crossings, well, now we can start learning mixed rhythms. And I put together a teaching companion for dance scenario. And the strategy that I use to teach the rhythms are, I just start having them work on the basic rhythms here. And then I'll add in the slurs to make sure that they're able to do that with their bows and with the left hand. Same thing here, basic rhythm, and then try it with the slur. All right, look at some places here in dance scenario. So right here in measure 5, we've got the cellos, and it looks like they could be playing double stops here. It doesn't say non-divisi, but it's in that fiddle style, so I would understand it if an orchestra would play double stops here. And then we go over here to measure 17. What are we going to do here? Are we going to play quadruple stops? Are we going to play double stops? Are we going to play divisi, just split them all up? If we're going to play double stops, well, even if we're not going to play double stops, since we can all agree this is not melody, and we can all agree that this stuff back here is also not melody, so how do we keep our students from being extremely overbearing when they play? Well, they need to be playing up closer to the fingerboard. If they're playing quadruple stops, which I don't recommend, okay, this is not Bruck, this is not the Haydn Cello Concerto, right? The outside players are going to be playing the top 2 notes, inside players are going to be playing the bottom 2 notes. But in any case, it's going to be loud, and we want the melody to be able to come through. So when you're playing double stops, or if you're going to have them play quadruple stops, that's your prerogative, definitely play closer towards the fingerboard, and then you can bend the strings a little bit more. It makes it easier to play multiple notes at the same time. There might be a lot of other places here where you're going to have balance issues, and it's important that your students understand who has the melody and how their bow placement, if they're playing close to the bridge or playing close to their fingerboard, how that's going to affect their tone. And if you want the melody to be able to come through, you might want them to play a little closer to the bridge. Like right here at 17, violas, low strings, you might want to have them play this in what I call bowing lane 2, which is kind of in between the middle and the bridge area. We also have this fun little section here at 73, and this section right here has double up bows, has portato bowings. So we kind of have to make a decision about how we're going to play these portato bows, and there's a few different ways that you can play it. You can play these on the string, and if you're going to do that, you're going to want to make sure that you re-grip in between each note so that each note is articulated. Otherwise, it's going to sound mushy. You could play these as brush strokes. So you could brush, and then play this down, or you could bounce these. So you could go down and then do a brush bounce. But if that's the case, you're going to need to get back onto the string for the next quarter note. So pick a way that you want to teach it and make sure you're consistent every time. Now, in the teaching companion, I have this as rhythm number 4. When you go to teach rhythm number 4 and they're just learning how to do it on open D, when they're playing this, make sure it's consistent with what you want them to do in the piece. If you want them to be on the string, have them stay on the string. If you want them to bounce, have them bounce. But whatever you're going to have them do, make sure it's consistent in this exercise. And please don't go too fast. Don't go at concert tempo when you're playing through these exercises. Play it slow enough to where they can do the correct technique and get onto the strings or grip the string or whatever the technique is that you're teaching. Start it slow so they can have some success and then speed it up. Once our students are really comfortable using the bow and they know which techniques that they're supposed to use, they know what part of the bow they're supposed to use, and they know what bowing lane or how close to the fingerboard or how close to the bridge they need to be with the bow, it's going to make everything a lot easier. Stylistically, they're not going to have to work so hard when they're adding the left hand. So I like to do these rote exercises with them, and that's why I put the stuff down in the teaching companions so that I can do everything on open strings for the most part. I mean, the slurs aren't on open strings, obviously, but it's just open D to E. So it's nothing too complicated, and it's just to make sure that they're using the same amount of bow when they slur as they are on just a regular quarter note. In the next video, I'm going to talk about some strategies that I use in dance scenario for the left hand, and there's a lot of left hand work here. There's a lot of half position stuff, so I hope you stay tuned for the next video.